My guests tonight are Navy Navy veteran and Jennifer Ross, who's actually an Air Force veteran, and Curtis Addleman, who's a Navy veteran. Jennifer Ross is the program director of the Upward Bound program at Catholic University and served in the United States Air Force as an intelligence specialist and retired in 2023. She spent the majority of her career providing strategic guidance and support to Department of Defense leadership in various roles around the globe. Since retirement, Jennifer has dedicated her time to support veterans organizations and nonprofits, including Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, American corporate partners, and serves as the Vice President of Strategy for the New York Brigade, a student veteran-focused nonprofit. Jennifer has a bachelor's degree in intelligence studies from American Public Universities, a master's in organizational leadership from UMass Global, and is currently enrolled at Cornell University S.C. Johnson School of Business, pursuing her MBA. Curtis Addleman is the executive director of Military and Veteran Student Services at Catholic. Welcome to the show. So, that's a lot.
That's a lot to follow, man. I'm just saying. I don't know if I can live up to Jen's pedigree there.
Well,
you said I thought you were gonna like cut and paste. I would have said, "Hey, I'm Jen."
I can't with another Jen. I can't cut and paste. What can I tell you?
Okay, all right.
I would like you to tell me about Upward Bound because it's just amazing, and I want everyone else to hear about what I know.
I will start because I have to reintroduce Curtis because my position wouldn't be as successful as it is without the work that Curtis actually began. So Veterans Upward Bound started at Catholic University. It's a grant program funded through the Department of Education, and Curtis was actually the first program director. He paved the way, set the program up. Was the director for the first year, and then he was promoted into his executive director role for our Office of Military and Veteran Programs. I think he has not only established an amazing program, but then we've kind of taken it a step further through kind of Curtis's understanding and development of OMVP that, we were able to kind of put our two programs together and become an even bigger force for good. So I will turn it over to Curtis now.
Hey, don't turn it over to me. You're the star of the show here. I do feel as though we lost the other Jen for a moment there. I don't know where she went. So it's just going to be like we're at work again, talking to each other.
We do yell across the hall all day long.
So I got to say that the Veterans Upward Bound program is one of the least advertised, least publicized initiatives that the Department of Education has had, and it's been around since 1972. Jen and I have collectively 41 years of military experience, and neither of us heard about the program until after we retired.
And both of us would have qualified.
Yeah, 100% could have used those services had we knew it existed. And so the overall concept is that we are looking for low-income, first-generation college student veterans who are just looking to get back into school or in any other way that we can help them. So we try to fold that into workforce development, employment, housing, anything that prevents somebody from achieving their ultimate goal. Obviously, we are an institution of higher education, and everybody thinks of that and they go, okay, well, then you're here to get people a degree. You want them to enroll to get their tuition dollars. You're not wrong. However, we want to set the standard for what a institution of higher education can do to provide veterans, their families, everybody else, all of the resources that they need. If you don't know where your next meal's coming from, you don't know where you're living next week, or if you have some issues that you still need to work through, then you know what? College might not be for you at this point. Let's deal with those higher, or well, I guess, base needs before we start having that conversation of, hey, do you want to go back to school for a degree? Why? Let's get those things taken care of. And that's what Jen's been able to do. What did we do the math on this? You've been working in that position for like 7 months now. And is it 7? I don't even know. It feels like yesterday. But the amount of progress she has been able to make with this program from where I had it a year ago is just astonishing. I could not have asked for a better individual for the position or for the program in general.
What is the reception among the student population and across the city?
So as of right now, I'm going to caveat something here. We are funded to serve 125 veterans annually. If you go through our records right now, we are probably closer to the 160 mark because there is such a need, especially in the DMV, for programs like this. Everybody kind of forgets about the district, right? We're not a state. We don't have the state level VA. We don't have a lot of those outreach or nonprofits or state level programs that can help this population. Our research, which was not done by me and probably could be done a lot better, indicates that there's about 30,000 low-income first-generation college student veterans in the district, just in the district. And we're talking, what, 25 square miles? That ain't much. So this program needs to be broadcast. People need to know it exists because at the end of the day, veterans are, from the selfish standpoint of higher education, that's a lot of money. But from the overall, building a better community, building a better society, we have the ability to bring veterans into a space where they've traditionally been excluded. And what we've been able to do, I hate saying what we've been able to do, what Jen's been able to do has been so inspiring that I fully see us being able to build this program to serve a much larger area. And if I had my way, we'd be funded to serve 200 individuals right now.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. I think the biggest so obviously I was very deliberate when I was searching for my next role, and when I saw the ad for Veterans Upward Bound and the program director position, it just totally spoke to me because of my passion for just education in general. I think we see often that students are separating from the military, or veterans are separating from the military and using their GI Bill. The recent study that just was published, less than 6 months ago, actually shows that 56% of separating veterans are tapping into that GI Bill benefit. But when it comes to graduation rates and then being able to work in the career field that they, ended up getting a degree in, those numbers are falling short. And I really think that just comes down to the fact that, veterans are being targeted for that GI Bill money, not because somebody necessarily wants to see them succeed, but because it's a giant pot of money. Where that's what I love about Veterans Upward Bound and the ability to work in this role is, I'm not going after academic teaching dollars. Like, I don't need your GI Bill. I just want to make sure that you get in the right program, in the right school, at the right time, when you can be successful. You're going to be able to finish, and you're going to be in a career field that you're actually passionate about. Just because you left the service as a maintainer or a security forces individual doesn't mean you need to, go into criminal justice. Doesn't mean you need to go into criminal justice or engineering. Like, maybe that's not your passion. That's one thing that I love that we have the ability to do is really work with students, give them the time to figure out where they want to go, what they want to do, and what they're ready for.
Are you concerned at all about your funding? How does the uncertainty of the Department of Education how does that all play into this for you?
I just had a conversation recently about this. I think the concern obviously is the negative connotation about Department of Ed. But honestly, I think it's because people don't truly understand what the Department of Education has done for them. If you look at the budgetary spending, only 2% of all government spending is going to education. And out of that, a fraction of ours is going to programs like Upward Bound. But if that money, even if that 2% is pushed down to the states, these larger programs that are able to kind of serve and cater to not just, state by state, but population by population, they'll go away. States won't have the ability to say, to direct education funding to just first generation. They'll have to direct it to, city by city. And so I think that's one of the things that people need to realize, having a Department of Education allows these national level programs that can really tailor and open up the educational space to those who might not have already or been able to even attain, entrance into a program. Through Veterans Upward Bound, we provide tutoring. We provide interview preparation if you are applying to a program that requires an interview or a test or a GMAT or an SAT. At the same time, we also help veterans find just micro programs in something simple as like cybersecurity or, an IT cert. These are all things that we can do, and it's only possible because we have something like the Department of Education in place.
So that being said, I know we had talked about this a few weeks back, maybe, more like a month now, over a month. Is your plan, would your thought process be only states, or would you consider trying to go to VA for assistance if you had to? Because my thought wouldn't be to go to the states, it would be to go to VA. I wouldn't think you would have, or state VA, well before. I mean, and my humble opinion, there needs to be a lot more participation with state VAs. We can't always go to big VA for everything. There's a lot going on there, and I personally think that a lot more responsibility can be given to the individual states. Service with our veterans starts in the states in which they reside. There needs to be, and I say this with all due respect, I'm not suggesting that every state is falling down on their or shirking responsibility. I think it's a discussion that needs to be had. It needs to be something where perhaps we need to sit down and talk about these things and raise thoughts that haven't been had before. And if the Department of Education is going to go away, then perhaps we need to, maybe the three of us go up to, Governor Moore and Anthony Woods, and we say, okay, let's have a discussion and talk about this, because they seem to be very reasonable people, and maybe they would enjoy hearing from the three of us, because I have spoken with the three of us, and we seem to be very reasonable and fun people as well. We've discussed that. We've agreed on that, right? So
I think we've agreed. We're definitely a fun group of people. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that, and just speaking for the state of Maryland, who takes care of its veterans, I think it would be a good place to start. I have been very, very impressed with, as Secretary McDonough calls it, the new VA. I have been. I know that there are still things that need to be adjusted and fixed. I know people fixed. I know that veterans and are angry about things, and they have good reason to be. But I will say again, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, because you've had a bad experience with benefits decisions that have taken years and years and years. That doesn't mean there aren't programs and resources and other things that are available. So I would say the same thing with this sort of situation. It's worth giving it a chance. It's worth trying and still being willing to compromise and talk and have discussions, because there are so many people that have fresh new ideas. And, if you aren't willing to do that, if you aren't willing to stop listening to the old, and then I kind of sort of think.
Well, it's funny you say that. So, I mean, Curtis mentioned that the program, that Veterans Upward Bound, actually started in 1972. So when you think about that, this program is an old hat, but I feel like it could be totally revamped and revolutionized, especially if, say there is reason to believe that the Department of Education, loses a significant amount of funding. Well, it's really not a big ask to take a program that's already established. We already have clear metrics. We already have clear success stories to build upon, and putting a Veterans Upward Bound program in every state. There isn't one in every state right now.
Interesting.
As a grant program, it can be written through. So obviously, Catholic University is our host. They were gracious enough to write, this grant proposal and secure the funding. But you can be a nonprofit. A nonprofit can actually run to write for this grant. A state, I would love to see each state have a Veterans Upward Bound that is able to service their veteran population. So I think there's definitely room to discuss like where this program could go in the event that the Department of Education funding needed to be shifted around a little bit. Well, we're just such a small microcosm of that anyway. Maybe the VA can pick it up. Maybe state funding can say, hey, you know what, we really believe in Veterans Upward Bound. We want to keep it for our community and help fund it in another way.
It's called pivoting, right? I mean, Ross is the one who
Pivot. Sorry,
No, of course you did. Anybody who's anybody knows what that means. And if you don't know, then you don't know, right? Well, and I also, I didn't, at the beginning, I was remiss in not saying that I'm an alum of Catholic University School of Law. So, right. You might have had a little preferential treatment in why you got such great space and time on this podcast. But I happen to be a big fan of Catholic University. So yes, well, I just am. I am also, I also have a nonprofit scholarship foundation for a high school classmate of mine who was killed in action in Syria in 2016. And one of the things that we did when setting this up was we give 2 scholarships, a $1,500, this is for high school seniors, a $1,500 scholarship for a non-traditional career path or education path and a traditional 4-year college. And this is sort of, I know it's, follow me here, it is something where you can enlist in the military, whether you go to a trade school. It's for those who, like my classmate, Scott Dayton, he didn't know exactly what he wanted to do. He didn't have his life figured out. He didn't have everything. In fact, he had a judge quite nicely say to him, you may choose the Navy or you may choose the jail cell. And that was Scott. And he was, he was a clown. He was funny as hell. And but his life, he made his entire life in the Navy. And he became this amazing, he was a hero. And when he died, he was a hero. He was with an explosive ordnance. I'm going to screw it up because, of course, I can't make him the hero he is. Was EOD was attached to a SEAL team.
Right?
Yeah, he was what you are, your rank when you, Curtis, because I tried to say it and I couldn't. And I'm embarrassing the crap out of everybody in my high school who knows and loves him right now. And oh my God. And yeah, so wow, this is embarrassing. But yes. Chief Petty Officer, right? Is that?
You got it. No, you nailed it. Chief Petty
That's
Officer.
what he was. That's who he is. And you can look up the Dayton Legacy Memorial Scholarship Foundation. That's where you'll find all about him. And a great video I made for him too. But yes, that is the scholarship, and it's for the non-traditional. And that's what I think of when I think of Upward Bound. That was my point. When you don't have everything figured out, when you don't have that, and that is what is so special about it and so needed, is you don't have to have your life figured out when you're a freshman or sophomore in college, and it's so needed. And that includes when you're coming out, when you're transitioning out of the military. My God, So I think, and Jen, I just wanted to give you a real quick, we only have a few minutes left, but you're doing something else, Project Parity. Can you please tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, talk about that.
Yeah, no. So it's so exciting. And I actually have to highlight too, Curtis and the Catholic University actually just stood up their first Student Veteran of America chapter. Which is,
yay!
So now we're
That's
all
awesome. I did not know that. Well, we can do a whole nother show, Curtis.
Yeah, but so I was actually, I found myself really finding my an advocacy voice since I took the, since I got out of the service. I don't know if it was just because I, felt I was free to talk about whatever I wanted to, or just that it feels
It's liberating, isn't it?
Yeah, and it just feels good to remain connected to a community that gave me so much. I still want to give back. So I applied for the VFW Student Veteran of America Legislative Fellowship, and I was selected. And in our advocacy project is the Guard and Reserve GI Bill Parity Act. And what after being in the military for 20 years, I had no idea that Guard and Reserve did not earn their GI Bill benefits at the same rate that active duty. So one day in uniform for a Guard and Reservist is not the same as an active duty member. So oftentimes, even if they're activated for national level or emergency response, that doesn't count the same as a one duty day. So many times, we have veterans at CUA right now who are only eligible for a portion of their GI Bill benefits, which also then negates their ability to use Yellow Ribbon. Unless you're 100% rated with your GI Bill, Yellow Ribbon benefits won't kick in. So this is something that I've learned just recently, and I was very excited to be able to speak about this and just bring awareness to the fact that there is a bill that has been proposed that would, allow Guard and Reserve to earn those days. We're not giving them extra days. It's just one for one, like you would expect any service member to be able to earn towards a GI Bill. I don't understand, there shouldn't be any difference. If you're willing to give up a day to serve your country, that day should count towards a benefit that an active duty service member earns as well. So there, I have, created a website. I'm sure we can, drop a link or something with you, Jen. But I'm looking for anybody, any veteran who is interested or ever done education, take the survey. It's not just for Guard and Reserve. And then if you have been affected by, the policies, share your story. The stories of advocacy, the stories of the impact are what really, drives that message home. Like I said, learning about our veterans' stories at CUA really, really made me even more passionate about the topic, because I've seen how it can negatively impact a student's educational journey just because they weren't active duty, even though they had just as much, time in uniform.
Jen, I think in the new year, I'd love to have you back. Curtis, I think you would probably be good too to speak on GI benefits, educational benefits, because it's something I get asked about a lot. And there's been so many changes with the post 9/11 and the Montgomery bill since all of that. It would be amazing just to talk about that and clarify. Sometimes people just want to hear about the subject in and of itself, but I'd love to talk more about that too. We have to wrap up now, but if you'd be willing to come back on and give a little bit of an education and story, you guys are awesome. When I told people that you were going to be on, they were like, "That's awesome! You're so lucky to have them on." So you have a little bit of a following anyway. So I felt kind of cool. So
we are here for you anytime you want us. We would be honored to come back. This has been great. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about this.
Thank you for coming. Well, have a happy holiday season, and you're the best. Thanks. Go Catholic.